Hello and welcome to Cut Through the Noise. Cut Through the Noise is the podcast that helps business leaders increase sales through elevated communications and marketing. And I'm your host, Aisling O'Rourke, founder of The Communications Coach, based here in the Republic of Ireland. I work with business leaders who want to communicate with clarity, confidence, credibility, and all importantly, authenticity. You are very welcome to this week's episode of Cut Through the Noise. If you've been a loyal listener, thank you so much for following us along on the journey. And remember that it is very helpful to us if you could give us a 5-star rating on your preferred podcast or on YouTube, of course, and even give us a few comments. Send us on to a friend or a colleague who you think these episodes will be of help to. In this season of Cut Through the Noise, we're focusing in on women in business specifically and the communication tools that you need to thrive in 2026. And today, it's all about visibility. So visibility is critical for credibility. If people don't see you, they can't know, like, or trust you. But many women often conflate visibility with constant posting on every platform, and that misunderstanding leads to burnout. A Canadian survey recently found that 67% of small business leaders in particular experience burnout, with social media cited as the major cause there. There's this constant pressure that we feel to create content and engage, and that can lead to mental and emotional exhaustion. I've been there myself. I know how it feels. When we treat visibility as a never-ending sprint, we're not only risking the longevity and sustainability of our businesses, but also our health and well-being. Strategic visibility means being intentional about where you show up and how we show up. So instead of trying to be everywhere and keep everybody on every platform happy, we have to be strategic. We have to really think about where our target audience is actually spending time. So, for example, are you serving business leaders or corporate clients? Well, LinkedIn's the ideal place for that. It should be your primary channel. It's the reason I spend most of my effort on LinkedIn. Do you work with people in the creative fields? Well, then Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, they could be more effective. And yes, I did say Pinterest. You're in the creative field. If you're a graphic designer, for example, Pinterest is a great place to build up some recognition for yourself. So you really should focus down, niche down on 1 or 2 platforms and really commit there. Show up consistently instead of spreading yourself thin across every app. And while we can post the exact same content in the exact same way on every single platform, it's not the most effective way to do things. So we do need to tweak the content to be more appropriate for the platform. And you see, this is where, if we're doing things right, the burnout can happen because we're trying to tweak it for everything. And well, there's not much point in doing that and spending the time and energy on that if our audience is on LinkedIn and they're really dedicated followers on LinkedIn, and maybe they're on Instagram. So it's about choosing the most cost-effective, time-effective platform that is going to be of use to you, your brand, and your business. Then, and I know I've discussed this before, but we have to talk about batching content creation. We do need to create time and space in the calendar that is dedicated space for creating content, so that it's not a panic every week or every Friday afternoon. What are we going to do next week? So that you do have a plan, that you do know that you're covered if you become unwell or if there's a crisis that you just need to deal with, so that you have some backup there. Creating content in batch format, i.e. like spending maybe it's a day a month or half a day a month, whatever works best for you. This avoids this feeling of being on this constant hamster wheel of creating, posting. Because the key to success on social media platforms in particular is then leveraging those posts and engagement and actually engaging with people in the comments, encouraging people to comment. So we're not just done when we've hit post. There's more work to be done. And if we're trying to be everywhere, that's just not sustainable. We also have to set boundaries around social media use in particular. And when I was a news journalist and a news anchor, that for me was a really big challenge, because in my world, I had to be aware of what was going on in the world around me, in my immediate community, nationally and internationally. So even if I was on a day off, I still needed to know what had happened while I was off shift, so that when I went back on shift, I wasn't behind the time, because my deadlines were coming thick and fast. And that's not the healthiest of lifestyles. And that's why nowadays I'm a bit stricter. So for instance, I only open LinkedIn when I'm in work mode. I post on TikTok, yeah, sure. And I have fun on TikTok. I think of it more as like a social media platform, if that makes sense. I send my friends memes on it. I have a brand presence there, yes, but when I'm in work mode, LinkedIn. And that means that during the working day, I don't ever go on TikTok, for example. So it's about those boundaries, and it's about figuring out what works best for you, your brand and your business, and where you want your business to grow. And sometimes that means we have to actually recognize how much time we're spending in the first place before we can put those boundaries in place. Now, throughout this series, I hope, been encouraging you to increase your visibility, to become more confident in your communications, regardless of where it's going to appear. But I said last episode, and it's worth, remembering this, that overly salesy promotional content can undermine credibility. Like 52% of customers say that hard selling content feels inauthentic. So we need to balance out our promotional posts with value driven content, such as tips and insights, behind the scenes posts. So every now and then I'll do a post of me doing exactly what I'm doing now, recording a podcast or a video or on a call with a client. It's an insight into, what the setup looks like, say, for a podcast, for example. But here's the thing. When we're talking about increasing brand awareness, which is the purpose of visibility and personal branding, we can't limit it to social media. And I think that's kind of a habit an awful lot of women in business have gotten into. Visibility must extend beyond social media. Now, look, it's part of a hangover from the pandemic as well, when there were no events to attend. We got into the habit of not having to go anywhere. But it is important that we attend events, that we show up in spaces where our target audience are attending, not just in spaces where people like us are going to learn as well, because they're also valuable. But we can't just go to those spaces. We also need to go to events, appear in panel discussions on stages where our target audience is in residence. Another option is to write guest articles or collaborate with networks. I spoke in an earlier episode about referral marketing and another episode about testimonials. These are all valuable visibility tools because you're leveraging other people's trust. Something I also speak about is the sheer and underestimated importance of traditional media. So there is huge value in appearing in traditional radio stations, on radio shows, on television, in newsprint, magazines. That whole world of media still has a very large audience. In Ireland in particular, over 80% of adults, according to the latest JNLR study, I think that was 82% of adults, listen to radio on a daily basis. So you have to really think about what's worth your time and energy. Is an Instagram post that's going to be seen by maybe 200 people worth the same as appearing on a current affairs talk show in your region of the country that's listened to by over 100,000 people, for example? We need to be strategic in our visibility. We need to reach new audiences, without increasing our workload. We're busy enough as it is, and without it affecting our well-being. So visibility is under discussed, but it is important. And I think it's worth you spending some time thinking about the spaces that you can appear in order to increase our brand awareness. And there are so many amazing networks and business networks across the island of Ireland. And I know internationally it's the same as well. If you're a woman in business, don't just go to women-only spaces. Don't just target your own gender. Be gender neutral. There's learning to be had in a variety of networks. And sometimes we can get into the habit of going to women-only spaces because they feel safe at the very beginning. They feel maybe more approachable when we're starting out in business. And that's all understandable. And there's huge value. I'm a member of a female-only business network myself. But I also try to go to gender neutral events as well, so that there's a balance, because you never know who you might meet along the way that might need your services or know somebody who does. Prioritizing your well-being is key to all of this. Schedule time away from work and screens where possible. Ideally, delegate tasks if you can, and leverage those networks that you've built up. Ask for support, because oftentimes the struggle, the feeling of overwhelm, it's replicated across the networks that you're already in. It's just that perhaps people are afraid to own up to it. So ask for that support. Many networks have foundations or support communities that can assist as well, that are often underutilized. Visibility, as I've said, it works best when it's sustainable. It's easier in the long term if it's incorporated into your day-to-day business activities, if it doesn't bleed out into your personal time. It has to be sustainable so you can mind yourself and avoid burnout. In the next episode of Cut Through the Noise, we're going to be focusing in on communicating value so that when people see you, they understand exactly how you can help them. But I hope that you have found this episode helpful. This series is designed to help you think differently about how you communicate. And every episode of Cut Through the Noise aims to give you practical insights that you can apply immediately to your work and business. Don't forget, we are open to new members of the Clarity Collective, our monthly mastermind where we work together in a supported and structured way to elevate our communications strategy. If you'd like to find out more about the Clarity Collective, you can click the link to book a call with me. No pressure, just a chat to see if it's the right fit for you. You can always drop me an email to hello@thecommunicationscoach.ie, and I'd only be delighted to have a chat. Of course, I don't expect you to remember all of those links off the top of your head, so they are in the show notes. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Cut Through the Noise. Please do feel free to share it with a colleague or a business partner who you think will enjoy it and perhaps benefit from the topics that I've discussed today. Remember that giving us a 5-star rating or commenting, or even better, a review on your preferred podcast platform all helps to spread awareness and visibility of Cut Through the Noise on your preferred podcast platform. It is a noisy world, so remember that clear, confident, credible and authentic communication allows you and your brand to stand out from the sea of sameness and cut through the noise.